hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. When it comes to important life events or even everyday stressors, it's human nature to wonder, what if? What if I miss my flight? What if that lump is something serious? When it comes to having a baby, the list of what if anxieties can be endless. Fortunately for the majority of parents, when that beautiful, healthy baby is placed in their arms for the first time, those what if worries are gone, at least temporarily, replaced with something more like, what a miracle. Allison and Michael Rice have asked what if many times, too often with answers that left them devastated. Today, they will also tell you miracles abound. Allison and Michael met at Texas A&M.
She was dating a friend of mine at A&M. I didn't see it really going anywhere between the two of them, so I went and had a conversation with Danny and said, hey, if you're not interested, I am. Kind of went from there.
But I really impressed you with my football knowledge.
Yeah, I impressed you with my stick shift driving.
That's true.
After graduation, Allison moved to San Antonio for nursing school, and Michael went into construction. They were married in 2012. In the summer of 2017, about a month after they decided it was time to start their family, Allison wasn't feeling well and took a pregnancy test.
She's laying on the couch because she didn't feel good. And I go to the bathroom and look at it, and sure enough, like this, the term blue, whatever, what was the sign? And I just came over and gave her a big old kiss, and she's like, no, I don't believe it. Go pee on another one then.
So we had to do multiple quality checks, and I think Michael...
I peed on one just to make sure it didn't, it didn't trigger on me. Make sure I wasn't pregnant.
Make sure we didn't have a faulty box,
Yeah.
They were in shock, but elated. They went for the first ultrasound at about 22 weeks.
The ultrasound tech was kind of looking, and it was me and Michael there, and I think I just remember her getting really quiet.
The tech told them she'd be back and left the room.
And then they escorted us out of the ultrasound room into an exam room, and I think that's when I knew that things weren't going as planned.
That's also when they met Dr. Robert Huff, a high-risk pregnancy obstetrician.
He came down and sat down and talked with us, and I call it Charlie Browning moments in your life where you're kind of hearing what's happening, and then everything just kind of starts to gerbil together. And he started talking to us and took us back to the exam room, and we looked at Anthony again, and he showed us what they had seen on ultrasound and showed us his polycystic kidneys.
Their what-if worry had come true in the worst possible way.
You know, I remember calling our parents, calling them and just saying that the baby wasn't going to survive.
They met with the University Health Supportive Care team at about 36 weeks.
They asked us some really good questions that I don't think we had considered before, and asked us about, our birth plan and what we really wanted this to be for our family.
They decided she would be induced so their close family members could all be there for support. Anthony David was born on May 14th, 2018 at University Hospital.
Just spent time together as a family. We really just loved on him for as long as we could and held him and talked to him, and he opened his eyes for us, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
They dressed him. They baptized him. They held him as he died peacefully. Anthony was buried with a promise that he would never be forgotten. Anthony's polycystic kidneys and facial features pointed to a diagnosis of trisomy 13, but they pursued genetic testing.
We thought that would kind of show us something, and really when we got all of those results back, they said, genetically normal male.
Unreal.
And we're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't any of the trisomies, it wasn't any of the, 275 normally identified genetic syndromes or diagnosis. That was kind of
That was a low point.
A breathtaking moment.
At the time, there was just one community pediatric geneticist in San Antonio. They'd waited months to see her, hoping they could get an answer to the question, what if we try to have another baby? Basically, she told them it could have been a random mutation.
This could be something that was a recessive gene that had a 25% inheritance rate.
Yeah.
So in looking at what she told us, we're like, so you're saying we have a 75% chance to have a healthy baby or a 1 in a million chance that this happens again?
Yeah.
You know, we felt decently confident.
A few months later, they didn't need to buy all of the pregnancy tests in the store to believe the news.
I knew pretty instantly that I was pregnant. I just had a feeling, you know. I don't know.
Because of her history, they were referred to the complex pregnancy team and scheduled an appointment with Dr. Patrick Ramsey.
Dr. Ramsey's very energetic and boisterous.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking for them and me, just trying to make sure that we were reassuring Mom and Dad that the pregnancy was going well. What happened the first time was probably a one-time thing and won't happen again.
They had appointments every other week. Dr. Ramsey did the ultrasounds himself, showing them how their baby was developing.
Little
fighter guy. He did not like people in his space, and so, you know, when you would go in, he would really kind of kick and push back when you checked out on ultrasound, which was fun.
At around 22 weeks, Dr. Ramsey was hoping to see more amniotic fluid.
My heart kind of dropped a little bit when I was scanning her because I saw the fluid was on the low side, kind of abnormally low for that part of the pregnancy, but nothing else was abnormal.
Unfortunately, there was even less fluid at the next visit.
This was the same scenario that he evolved last time, and as a provider, it was really hard for me to kind of maintain composure, to kind of provide that reassurance and that hope that, no, I think we're okay, let's just keep watching.
The University Health Supportive Care team was brought in again. Marissa Rodriguez was new to the team, but immediately felt a bond with Allison and Michael.
It's not often that this happens, right? That we have a family who is potentially having a second loss or that we need to work with them in a second pregnancy. So there's a little bit of a special love for that family because they've been through so much already.
They also consulted with Julie Horsting, a prenatal genetic counselor who had just recently joined UT Health.
It was really Julie, I think, who started to question quite a bit, because she looked at the differential diagnoses from our other pediatric geneticist, and it didn't settle with her.
Those tests were very broad and looking at the DNA from kind of a high vantage point.
Julie hoped to get some more in-depth testing completed quickly.
This one was different because, you know, we felt like Luke had a chance at least, because there was some time that he had amniotic fluid. His lungs had developed to a certain degree.
Again, all of their close family members came to University Hospital. Dr. Ramsey was there too.
Because I was so invested in the pregnancy, following them through, we coordinated for a day when I was available. We had all the palliative care team individuals there.
But Allison is a planner, so she wanted to have every possible scenario planned out and what the action was going to be for each one.
We knew that delivering him at 31 weeks would mean that we would spend some time in the NICU.
Yeah.
And
we also knew that we weren't going to try to force it. You know, if we were gonna kind of go to a certain step, a certain level, and then if that was the time, then that was going to be the time.
Luke Michael was born on November 12, 2019. He was very small.
2 pounds 7 ounces, just a little guy.
Little nugget.
As we saw the baby after delivery, that it was struggling to maintain its oxygen levels, that I think the hope was fading very quickly at that point for us and for the family.
Michael went up to the level 4 NICU with tiny Luke. Marissa stayed by Allison's side, updating her. It was not looking good. His lungs were not developed enough. How do you break the news to a mom who is losing her second baby?
There really is no way. But you're honest, and you're compassionate, and you stay.
Allison was determined to make it up to the NICU.
We knew she had to be there. She had to be there with her baby.
Dr. Ramsey agreed. She was put in a wheelchair and taken upstairs. Up in the NICU, they watched the team work on their tiny baby.
Just kind of got to the point where, I told him if he was ready to be done,
He fought really hard for us. He really did. He tried really hard.
I think that as heart-wrenching as it was also lovely. It was, that space in the NICU was full of love.
They placed him in their arms, and he died about 30 minutes later. They couldn't help but think, what if we're not meant to be parents?
oh yeah, absolutely. That thought, it's a terrible thought, but it does crawl through your head. What's the reason for all of this?
Everything we looked at from a genetic standpoint, from an exposure standpoint, from family history was all not helpful. So it was hard to talk to them about next steps. What can I do or we do as a team to help prevent this from happening again?
After some time grieving, they reconnected with the genetic counselor.
Luke, as opposed to Anthony, Luke looked very, very normal. Mm-hmm. He didn't have any of the facial deformities.
Julie moved forward with in-depth genetic testing that included samples from both boys as well as Allison and Michael.
And our hope was that that amount of information would give us some reassurance at the end that either we found the underlying cause, or reassurance that if we didn't find a genetic cause on this test, perhaps there wasn't one to be found.
Julie did a really, really good job having really powerful conversations with us.
So we explored all of those different possibilities, how they each felt about those different possibilities, and what it would mean for their path to growing their family.
It took several months to get those results. They came in person to hear the news.
And the results showed that they found a change in a gene, LAMA5, in both Allison and Michael, one change each, and that for both Anthony and Luke, they had both inherited both of those changes.
Just one gene.
Each chromosome has hundreds of thousands of genes on it, and this is just one gene, one sentence, if you will, in our instruction booklet. And in that one sentence, there was one letter that was a typo.
The chances of us two meeting and having the same genetic abnormality is astronomically small.
And then the likelihood that we find all the right people too, Yeah. So not only that we found each other, but then that we also found a medical team who kept asking questions and kept really searching.
The underlying genetic cause for what had happened gave them some closure on that point and gave them new directions for the future.
That's because new technology allows embryos to be tested prior to implantation.
We have learned that we can safely take just a few cells from that outer layer that's going to become the supporting structures and send that to the laboratory for testing.
They decided to move forward on this path and met fertility specialist Dr. Randall Robinson.
I remember asking him, how many other times have you done this, Dr. Robinson? He's, helped families with infertility for a long time, and so I asked how many other families he had helped with these identified genes and implantation, and
he said, "You're the first."
I'm like, oh, okay.
Which is
a little terrifying.
She also had no idea how difficult the in vitro fertilization process would be.
It's one of those things that you just don't know until you go through it, and You know, IVF is it's a physical and emotional and mental battle.
And what if the day you must come in for them to retrieve your eggs is during an historic winter storm? It was February 15th, 2021.
We didn't really know what was going to happen because there was nobody on the clinic line and nothing was open. And so Michael came and picked me up, and we kind of went through the snow in his truck, and I closed my eyes, and it was a terrifying trip in, and we get here and
the doors were locked.
We turn around to go back to the car, and the nurse Shelly is she's coming across the road, slipping and sliding as we go. And said, "We're here, we're going to do this."
26 embryos were sent for testing. Just 2 came back as healthy.
Dr. Robinson encouraged us to go through another round of stimulation to see if we could make some more embryos. And so we took a little bit of time. I needed a month to kind of gather myself again. And so we took a little bit of time and then did another stimulation there and did another egg retrieval in May.
Of the 49 retrieved, 5 came back healthy, and 5 others showed to be carriers of LAMA 5, like Allison and Michael.
I had to start taking some hormone therapy, and we went in for implantation, and it was really difficult. Our first implantation was a long process.
The news a week later was not good.
Implantation did not result in a pregnancy.
Yeah.
They tried again the following month. Michael had been out of town, and his flight was delayed.
You know, I'd been working, and I was worried about him getting in, and so we were all flustered, and it was crazy.
But the implantation went perfectly. Dr. Robinson knew exactly what he needed to do from his experience on the first one. It was a 5-minute process.
7 days later, the pregnancy test was positive. They couldn't help but wonder and worry, what if?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I think we just know that nothing is guaranteed. And so we knew that we could identify this gene, but the expression part of it is not guaranteed. So we knew that we had identified LAMA 5, but we didn't know if that could be expressed differently, if we could have some sort of other mutation. I was reserved.
I felt more confident because I was seeing her grow, seeing him grow at the time. I felt more confident than I think she did. But there's still a very, very real fear and apprehension that this is going to happen again.
Dr. Ramsey understood it was important for them to come in every 2 weeks. They watched the baby grow with each visit.
Started seeing amniotic fluid, and I remember, so after the 20-week ultrasound, and Dr. Ramsey came into the office, he basically kicked the door in and jumped as far as he could, and was just incredibly excited.
I mean, we were excited that we were over that hump where both previous pregnancies had trouble. I was ecstatic because I think we had found the problem and we've found a solution. I don't know if she believed that, though, or her husband believed it. In my heart, I felt like we had a win. I was just feeling really good inside.
With everything going according to plan, they planned a C-section at 39 weeks. They set up a meeting with Marissa and the supportive care team.
And she wanted to come up with a plan for the delivery. And when we told her that we were not planning to be in the delivery, she was like, "What do you mean you're not going to be in the delivery?" And we're like, "We don't have to. Your baby's okay." But I knew her, and she said, "But what if?" How could you not worry about the what if after what you had been through in your other 2 pregnancies? But I just saw the worry in her.
It was June 10th, 2022. Marissa and Dr. Ramsey wouldn't have missed this delivery for the world.
It was obviously a lot of palpably anxious day. I remember seeing her in our triage area preoperatively, and they were just holding each other's hands tightly, and then we do her C-section, and beautiful little baby Nathan comes out, and breathing fine. Fluid all over the place when we broke the water, and held the baby up so Mom and Dad could see, and it was just my heart melted. It was such a wonderful thing to bring that life into this world for a family that really deserved it after working so hard.
He was screaming right out the gate.
So the NICU team examined him, we swaddled him, and we handed him over to Mom and Dad. And I helped take lots of pictures in there for that special, special moment. There are no words to describe the feeling in that precise time.
I was crying, Dad was crying, Mom was crying, everybody in the room was crying. It was so emotionally charged in that room. Just joy. It was just incredible.
It's just amazing. We were able to just sit there and look at him and see my features and see her features, and he had the same, within the first 10 minutes, he had already had an angry frown, forehead frown. So I knew he was Allison's son, and he started snoring, so I knew he was my son.
They took him home 2 days later.
And that's why I love my job every day. It's just incredible to go through those emotional roller coasters with families and then have them take a baby home.
I think now we still even just stare at him. We just marvel at him. It's just amazing to see him grow and how he learns and, just his personality. And
she sends me texts of her baby Nathan. It's just so wonderful. My heart gets warms every time I get a text from her.
It was an honor for me to get to meet and hold Nathan a few weeks after he was born, and just to hold that new life and know that he is a little miracle.
The science was so incredible in this case to bring a mom and a dad through a pregnancy that they didn't think they could have, to have a beautiful baby, all because of the amazing science behind it. And I don't think we could have done that 10, 20 years ago. So I'm really just grateful of them trusting in us to help care for them, and trusting the science that really let them carry forward with a really beautiful, healthy baby.
What will they tell Nathan about his brothers?
Everything. The whole story. It's part of his story.
Yeah. I think we're gonna... They're still very much a part of our lives. I think we talk about Anthony and Luke regularly.
Yeah.
We visit them regularly. You will know that legacy.